here on the Morning Buzz. I am your host, Gabby Lutz, joined in studio with Madi Zuniga, Emily Struble, Gina Morelli, Lara Zaccardi, and we have a special guest here today, Professor Kelly Whiteside. Hi, Kelly. How are you today?
Morning, everybody. I'm good. I'm awake.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm awake too. I've been awake for a couple hours.
You guys just stay up all night and then just go on air or do
Some of them do. I don't do that. Personally, could not do that. But I know that Madi was up in here until like 2:00 in the morning, which is gross. I don't understand why anybody would want to do that. But thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're so excited to have you. So we're gonna so for everybody who doesn't know, this is Professor Kelly Whiteside. She has been picked for the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. So thank you so much for joining us, and I guess we're gonna get into some questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Fabulous. So firstly, for those who don't know, what is the College Playoff Selection Committee, and what is your new role within it?
Sure. Well, thanks, guys, for having me first. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee is a committee of 13 people, and it's college football administrators, so athletic directors, former players, and coaches. And it's 13 people, and one spot has been reserved for like a media representative, which is great because as reporters, we don't usually get a seat at the table. So it's what we do, what sort of we're tasked to do is rank the college football teams. And as we get through the season and November, it really heats up. And we're sort of just tasked with ranking the teams that will play in the playoff, the 4 teams. And then obviously they play off against each other, and then the national championship game. So we're sort of the selection committee that determines which teams at the end of the season for major college football are in the championships.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, it's super exciting.
Hey, Professor Whiteside.
Hi, Em.
Since its inception in 2014, the college football playoff has been a hot topic in the sports world. Due to the 4-team setup, many fans and sports personalities have advocated for an expansion. Recently, the FBS Commission failed to vote in favor of the expansion to the 12-team format. Do you think they should expand the playoffs? Would that stop the constant cycle of teams like Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia dominating the playoffs?
I actually don't know. I think we since we're just getting started here, we meet in April and then we start, sort of revving up in summer, and then we get going in the fall, obviously in November. So that stuff is actually out of our hands. It's sort of the folks at the conferences level that are and the presidents that are going to decide that. And then sort of our job, like we sort of stay out of all that. Our job is just sort of whatever we have. And certainly over the next 3 years, which is my term, I'm not expected to have anything to expand during that time, because even if the decision is made, it won't happen for a couple of years, probably after my term. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's, wow. I didn't even know that. See, we're learning so many new things today.
We are.
Yeah. So hypothetically, if the college football playoffs expanded last year, so if they did, do you still believe Georgia would win, or would the surging teams like Ohio State and Oklahoma State cause matchup issues for the Dogs?
So you guys are prepared.
Oh yeah,
So what they tell us, right? And it's actually a good learning experience for me, because I've never been on the other side of things, right? So I've always been on the side of asking questions like you guys, right? Which is exactly the questions I would ask somebody that was sitting on the playoff committee. So what we are told at the start of things is we can't kind of traffic in what ifs. We sort of have to remain super neutral. So for me, it's a very opposition to be in, to sort of not ask and not probe. But really my role is to sort of not have, I think this team, I think that team, they sort of tell us we've got to sort of stay out of that conversation. So anything you ask me about teams, I can't answer, because they don't want, us to have any perceived bias, right? So if Montclair State was a Division I team right now, and we were vying, to have a spot in the college football playoffs, I would have to recuse myself from that discussion, right? So any kind of bias or perceived inclination we might have towards a team, we're not even supposed to be in that discussion. So when we're asked about what about this, we have to basically say it's sort of not up to us. So that is my very uncomfortable non-answer.
I'm sure it's very hard.
I can't talk about what about this team, what about that team, because it's sort of our job to be in that room and make a decision as one group. So
yeah, no, I believe it's very hard
right now if I was
no, you're giving us the honest answers, and that's all we need. I get it. It's your position. You have to stay neutral in media and things like that, and I get it.
They don't kick me off the committee before it starts. So
yeah, you're like, please don't.
For my removal.
Yeah, you're like, please don't kick me off. I just got here. Yeah. No, I get it. And it makes 100% sense. And we don't want you getting kicked off. So you don't need to say anything that you can't.
It was a very fair point. Changing pace. I'll switch those questions up a little bit. What inspired you to become a journalist?
I can answer that. What inspired me? I was in your position, guys, when I was an undergrad. So I went to Rutgers. So just, school a little farther south. And I just love being able to tell stories, writing for the school paper and just tell stories about sports, but also about other things in life. Sports gives you kind of the opportunity to explore issues in politics and social justice and gender and race. And, there's just that curiosity that you can have. And sports is such, as I talk about sports media and society all the time, it's just a great lens into what's going on in this country and around the world. So I just love that I could cover all of that stuff kind of through the lens of sports, for sure.
When you published your first official article, how did it feel to get that weight off of your chest?
It's fun. Like when you guys, when you see, your work that you do for the radio station or any other of the campus media, it's just, you sort of get a rush. It's just a feeling of accomplishment. And there's just something cool, to see a byline, right? Or, to kind of for you, what you guys are doing with the radio station to sort of build your portfolio. And I think, I always say in all my classes that, if you're in our school, you can't just leave here with a degree, right? It's not like English or history. You sort of have to leave here with a body of work, right? And I really try to get everybody involved in campus media because, as you guys know, it's not only great for whatever field you want to go into, but it's also where you meet your great friends as well. So it's super fun.
I agree. I think that is super fun. So recently, NFL quarterback Jeff Garcia went on an online rant directed at ESPN's Mina Kimes. He questioned her credentials and why people like her are given a platform to talk about sports that they have never played. Yet he has never questioned the credentials of someone like Max Kellerman, who has never played a second of NFL or college football. As a woman in the world of sports, how do you feel about what he said?
Yeah, it's so tired and old, it's just like you sort of just roll your eyes for me, as opposed to kind of getting outraged, because it's such a lazy way to criticize somebody because of their gender or because they didn't play a sport. And hopefully the blowback that is happening now on social media, I know it goes both ways, but the blowback on social media, hopefully, it's being pointed out just how unbelievably off target that is. And it's just like an easy thing to criticize somebody for, right? Like reporters, you don't have to have played the game to be able to analyze and ask smart questions and write or have a take on something on the field of play, right? It's not required. And I think people a lot of coaches have never played the game before, in terms of at the highest level, right? So, it's disappointing. But when stuff like this happens, I sort of tend to look at, just kind of more education, more awareness about just how off base that is, especially when it's somebody sort of as like a smart cookie like Mina Kimes, who probably knows so much more than certainly he does about kind of the state of pro football right now. She's in the thick of things, kind of analyzing, talking to people, reporting about things on a daily basis.
No, yeah, I agree. It's a sport, why does gender have to do with anything? If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. I don't.
Exactly.
There are plenty of men who don't know anything about football or anything. So, and it's a thing, so I don't understand why it's like that, but unfortunately that is the world, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly.
What were some of the obstacles that you had to overcome to get where you are today, Professor Whiteside?
I think a lot of it is sort of being the only, woman in the room, right? Like, you almost don't notice it after a while. Certainly when I started out my career, I covered baseball for Sports Illustrated. I remember being at, ALCSs or NLCSs and kind of looking around and then not seeing a lot of women. And, covering national college football, when I did that for about 14, 15 years, I was the only national college football female writer that was sort of regularly at these games. So it's just sort of, not that it's an obstacle, because certainly I had great friends and allies among the reporters I was with each week. But it's just sort of being, kind of the only. Luckily in my career, I didn't have, sort of these standoff situations that some of my friends and certainly women who came before me had in terms of locker room situations. I was sort of always fortunate to either cover college teams, or I did a lot of women's sports. So I wasn't sort of on the front lines of kind of that type of pushback. But, it's mostly just kind of adjusting to sort of being the other, or being the only woman in the room in terms of, kind of finding my way through different places where I worked.
Well, you're obviously doing a great job with pushing through with them, because here you are right now. So what does it mean for more diversity to be included in the selection committees for sporting events?
It means everything. As we look at the numbers of, people of color, certainly at head coaching positions, it's all about making the upper levels of management more diverse. The people that make these decisions, that hire coaches or make these selection committees, that it's a priority, that all voices are heard, that everybody is sort of given equal say, right? And so many rules have been put into place to make the upper levels of sports more diverse, but we still have such a long way to go. Every time you see a coaching hire, and it's sort of another sort of white male who's been at other places, there is criticism, but, certainly more needs to be done. I mean, we're seeing more women getting into the higher levels of sports, of male sports, which is really great. But still, even on the women's college basketball level, there's not that there shouldn't be men's coaches, but what we've seen over the years is more men coaching women, as the jobs become more desirable, so across the board, mostly men's sports, but certainly even in women's sports, it's always a constant topic.
There's definitely been some growth for women in sports over the past couple of years, but there's definitely room to grow. How is your work proven that women deserve a spot on the table, just like you?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
I'm sorry. How is your work prove that other women deserve a spot at the table?
I think, there was people on the committee before me that were in the media spot. One of my colleagues at USA Today, Steve Weirberg was the first media representative. And then actually the person before me on the committee who just cycled out is a woman. She's a former Arizona columnist, and she teaches at Arizona State. So I think the people before me, prove like why it's important to have like somebody from the media on this committee, why our voice is important, why, it's not viewed as you guys brought up, the Jeff Garcia they never played the game, why should they be on the committee, right? It says a lot about the college football selection committee that they feel that's important that a media member is on it, that somebody who spent their career analyzing sports and writing about it at a pretty prolific level, is just as knowledgeable as somebody who's played the sport or has coached the sport or who's an administrator in the sport. So I think, it's always constantly, just working hard and doing a good job and hopefully setting the table for other people to come after.
That's a great answer. And speaking of media, what does your specific media role entail?
Basically, I do the same thing as the coaches and the administrators. We all analyze teams and I'll know more once we meet in terms of how the logistics go. But my role is exactly the same as the 12 other members. Which is why it's sort of a weird position for me, because as I said, I'm usually on the other side of things. So it's exactly the same.
Great.
How does it feel to be a role model for young women who want to or are already in the field for sports broadcasting?
I had really great mentors when I was your age, and they really sort of helped me navigate through the start of my career. So anything I can do to help students, get a good foundation while they're here at school, and then sort of help them through that next stage of their career. And it's a big one, right? The first job out of school. I take that really seriously. Like when you guys are here, it's trying to help you get us, a foot in the door. I always say, even if it's something you don't want to do, it's a good foot in the door. So it's super important, I think, to have mentors throughout your career, because this is a business that you really do need. It is about connections and people and sort of if you guys, my big advice too is to make sure you keep up your relationships with your professors. We had a mentor event last night, and one of the things that came up that I mentioned is that when you guys graduate, make sure you give your professors your email address, because I feel like a forensic investigator trying to find you guys sometimes after you graduate. So if you're not on LinkedIn, so make sure while you're in school to kind of find those mentors and establish those relationships, because it really will help you throughout your career.
Yes. Thank you so much for everything you've told us today, whether it was letting us know your position or even giving advice to those who want to be in the field of sports broadcasting. So thank you so much for joining us, Professor Kelly Whiteside. We really appreciate you being here today.
All right, guys, get some sleep after this, okay?
You got it.
No sleep here at WOC. But thank you so much and have a great day.
All right, see you guys. See you at school.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.